Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming at you guys with Salvation, Season 2, Episode 3, Review. Alright, so this episode wasn't my favorite. I'm gonna be honest. I mean, I just don't think that much happened in this episode. We had, obviously, the big storyline was kind of about the Supreme Court, right, with Bennett, going to the Supreme Court, and then, of course, Grace, Darius, and Harris, and Mackenzie, deciding that they're going to, basically go with that avenue instead of, kind of launching a physical war, instead using the law, right, in their favor, to win the Supreme Court case. So that was kind of the big story, and then you had a couple other things develop throughout the episode, but honestly, then we find ourselves at the end of the episode almost in the exact same spot as we left off last week. So, I don't know. I just felt like it just really did not accomplish many things in this episode. It was kind of just dancing around the same type of thing that we saw last episode. So I was a little disappointed in that fact, but we did have finally the big payoff with Grace's testimony. So that was kind of a big payoff. But even then, it wasn't even that long of a thing, and it was kind of just a few moments there, and then she actually obviously makes the right decision in the end. So yeah, so those are kind of my initial thoughts of this one. I'll go through a recap, of course, of the episode, and then after that, get to my rating, favorite character, and then some more overall thoughts, kind of similar to what I just did here, some more overall thoughts, of the episode there. So yeah, overall just kind of disappointed by this one. Last episode I thought was strong. I thought it introduced a huge, a whole new storyline, and yeah, but this one definitely probably the worst one out of the three so far. Looking back at it, the Season 2 premiere, I gave, I think, a 4.0, so even 4 out of 5, and that may have been a little low, because I think this episode is a true 4.0 out of 5. Usually I don't give away my ratings or anything like that ahead of them, but anyways, so I do think that this one is definitely worse than the premiere, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, but that's just my opinion. If you guys thought differently, if you loved this episode, please let me know. Hopefully, we can discuss that. You can maybe, change my mind a little bit, and bring up some stuff, and I mean, I'm not saying that I just totally hated the episode. I think there were some strong things within it, like I said, about the payoff with Grace's testimony, but I did feel like it was just a little disappointing, because we really didn't get very far in this episode, like some others. Like, that's the thing with this series. Some episodes we get really far, like last episode, like a lot of stuff happened, and built a lot of things going forward, but then in this one, we don't really get anywhere. So that's where I kind of stand on this one. But anyway, so to start off the episode here, we get Bennett. He's going to the Supreme Court with his case to become president once again and claim the White House. So he goes on live television and gives this speech. He's on the stairs, I guess, of the, was it the Supreme Court? The Supreme Court building. He was on the stairs or something like that, giving a speech, to a bunch of people. And I will say one thing. I'm going to say it now, because he also gives a speech later in the episode, and we see people's reaction to the speech. And it seems as though the majority of people that are at least tuning into this speech, majority of Americans, you could argue, I guess, are kind of with Bennett right now, right? And so I just wanted to touch on that really quickly, is that a lot of them are with Bennett, and they believe what he's saying, that rhetoric and the lies he's spewing, right? Because they are in such of a mode of chaos, right? This situation is obviously crazy for them, right? It's chaotic. So Bennett comes in and says, "Oh, well, I can help you. I'm going to solve the problems, right? I'm going to save the country." And now they're kind of just gravitating towards him. So obviously, I mean, this is, and he's taking advantage of that. He's a smart guy. He's taking advantage and playing on that. So that's very interesting to note as well, that a lot of people are kind of on his side. But I think they're kind of, obviously they're on his side for reasons that, aren't necessarily true, right? Is he really going to save the country? Probably not, right? Can he do a better job than Mackenzie? Probably not, right? And has he tried to kill Mackenzie? Yes. So, obviously there's a lot of issues with him, but people are kind of overlooking those because he's promising to save the country, and that's all anyone wants right now, is just safety, right? From the, incoming asteroid and the missiles. So Anyway, so that was so that's, again, kind of the basis of this episode. Then we get Dr. Standall. She calls Darius and tells him that all the engineers at the plant that he wanted to convert in Virginia have left because of Bennett, right? So they don't want to, resume working on this, I guess it's what does he call it? He calls it a rail gun, I guess, right? So that's kind of his big plan now to move the asteroid off its course. But they've left because of Bennett, because they don't know who is president right now, right? And so they're not going to come back to work until they know who's president, and then they're going to be working for them, right? So either Bennett or Mackenzie, they're going to be working for them once they claim the White House again, or once Bennett claims the White House again, right? If he does. So everything relies on the Supreme Court vote. We get that idea, right? And so then we get that little table where they're kind of briefing each other. They're saying the Supreme Court is taking, the hearing, is taking place the next day. They've moved it up. They've, of course, expedited the kind of trial, right, to see who's going to, take control of the White House. Obviously, it's a pressing matter, so they move it up, and so all three of them, I guess, all four, Darius, Harris, Grace, and Mackenzie, are all going to be testifying in this, basically in this trial, I guess, for the White House. And it's actually pretty cool because Jennifer Finnegan, who plays Grace, her husband in real life, Jonathan Silverman, actually comes in and plays that lawyer who's kind of prepping them for the trial. So that was kind of a cool touch there to see him. I heard going into the season that he's going to be making an appearance, and I guess this is it. IMDb only lists him being in this episode. I thought that maybe he'd be in a few more going forward, but it looks like he's only in this one. But he gave kind of a cool, funny performance in the episode. So, kudos to him. But yeah, that was just kind of cool. I thought I'd point that out. But anyway, so Mackenzie says at the end of it, she says, we're going to war, just not the way we thought, right? So in last episode, she says we're going to war, and whatever. But she was more talking about, like, tanks and fighting rather than a Supreme Court vote, right? So she says, just not the way we thought. And then Darius reminds us, if we lose, we will lose everything, right? Everything we built and this whole plan that I have is going to go out the window if we lose. So we have to win. So he's just, basically reminding them all of that. So then we see Liam's team and the other teams proposing some ideas to resist. It actually looked at the table like they had 30 people. I didn't count for sure, but the last time they showed all these people at the table, there's only like 15 I counted, or 14 or 15, and then now it looks like they do have 30 people, so I wonder if they actually noticed that last episode. Maybe I'm just looking at it too closely. I know I probably am. For a CBS drama, that's maybe looking a little bit too close into things. But yeah, so it looked like they had 30 people around the table this time. So Resist tells them they have 24 hours to come up with an idea, and whoever has the best one will lead the task force going forward. So they'll kind of be in charge of all the other teams, right? So then we see the team is at odds here, right? So we see Croft and Liam butting heads once again. And again, I mean, it's kind of an overused plot here, right? We saw this in Season 1. Then we saw it at the end of Season 1, as Liam shoots Croft. Right, it thinks he kills him, but he didn't, obviously, so it's just an overused plot at this point. I kind of appreciate like disconnect between the two, right, in this episode, and and Croft is actually trying to help him a little bit, and I actually think Croft is in the right, I think he's thinking the right thing right now, but obviously Liam can't trust him because of the past, so it really means nothing to Liam, right? His opinion means nothing, but anyways, so they're butting heads once again, and Croft says, we are not sticking with Liam's idea, right? He doesn't want to do it. But the girl, now I forget her name, and I forgot to research it, but the girl, you know who I'm talking about if you saw the episode, of course. The girl on Liam's team that programmed Tess, that we found that out last episode, she decides to vote to keep Liam's sail idea, and she's kind of like the deciding vote here within the team. And so Croft, obviously, pretty mad about it, so he kind of storms off. But then he says to Liam kind of follows him, and he says he doesn't like it. Obviously he doesn't like that they've gone with Liam's idea now. And he says, he accuses Liam of having feelings for her, and then, that she is a distraction for him going forward, right? And I mean, again, Croft is probably right in this sense, but Liam his opinion means nothing to Liam because of the past and what Croft has done to Liam. So, only if someone else was telling Liam this, then maybe he would believe it. And I think it is going to be a serious problem going forward. I think she's going to be a distraction more than she's doing good for him, right? You know what I mean? So anyways, just kind of frustrating that Croft was the one saying that to Liam when no one else really could point it out. So, is what it is. But still, can we trust Croft? I don't think so. I still don't think he's going to be trustworthy at all. But again, we'll have to see. Maybe he's redeeming himself. I doubt it, though. So we see Carter, he comes to pick up Claire's things from Grace's new office. And again, I just love that she is in Claire's office. Like, that's her new office, and she, basically, she took Claire's job, right? So I just find it really, kind of funny and, kind of interesting, though, that she's the one who killed Claire, and then now she's, just took her office, right? She basically took Claire's, job, her status, right? And, because she killed her. But obviously Claire was guilty of things, right? Of trying to poison Mackenzie. It wasn't like she just killed her to take her job, obviously, right? But the way it's all worked out is just kind of ironic. So anyways, he comes to Grace's office. He takes Claire's stuff, but he actually, in the car that we see afterwards, he finds a drive hidden in the bottom of her snow globe. And this is kind of a weird thing. It was just kind of a quick little reveal that we saw. So I'm wondering if that'll come back later on. Later on in the episode, Carter actually gives it to some guy who drives up to his car. And he says, can you decode this for me? I want to see what's on it. So I'll have to see next episode. Hopefully they'll have that decoding ready. And Carter will have, the ability to see what is on that drive. So we'll have to see. And then we see... And this was just, you kind of just roll your eyes at this point. We see Carter handing over Claire's box to Bennett. Of course, right? I don't know. It was kind of predictable, but kind of not, right? And so we get the question, are they working together? It kind of seemed like Carter was, I don't know. It seemed like Bennett made a deal with him. And Carter was a little reluctant about it. I don't think it's kind of an equal working relationship, if you know what I mean. I don't think Carter actually genuinely wants to work for Bennett. I think it's kind of a one-way street here. But we'll have to see going forward again what Carter decides to do and how he interacts with Bennett going forward. And he asked Bennett to tell him what happened to his sister. That's all he wants to know in exchange for giving the box to Bennett of Claire's items, right? So I'm guessing that's because Bennett doesn't want anything to get out about it. I'm guessing, but I'm just not sure. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know exactly why Bennett wants the box, but that would make the most sense to me. So then we see Jillian goes with that boy. Oh my gosh. She goes to that boy from the last episode to the morgue. He was actually okay in this scene. I just really, really, really disliked. Was it last episode? Yeah, it was last episode. Where we had the boy from her 10th grade high school class comes, who's just coincidentally working at the White House, and they meet again. So that was a really awkward and kind of cringeworthy scene. But anyways, it's just one scene. I'm making a big deal of it, I know. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but, it was just a little bit of annoying, to me at least. So anyways, he comes back from last episode, and he goes with her as kind of her support, I guess, to the morgue, right? To ask about the supposed Joe Riggs, because now we know that that wasn't his actual name. So they're asking about his autopsy report, right? So the doctor says his brother came and claimed all the items already, right? So they're a little too late here. And so then the doctor said, so within the items, there's also a chip that was embedded behind his ear, right? And at this point, I'm not sure if we know this yet, or maybe we come back to this at the end of the episode again, but we do see that the same logo is on that little chip that was in this Joe Riggs guy's neck. The same logo is on that, as is in the drive that's found in Claire's snow globe. So they are connected somehow. So that's very, very interesting that we see that. Again, I'm not sure if we know quite at this point in the episode, but by the end of the episode, we find out that the logo is the same and they're matching somehow. So something is connected here. So then Jillian informs Darius about this, right? So this is kind of big news, right? Like, obviously, so now we know that he wasn't really a Joe Riggs, right? Now we know he has a chip embedded in his skin, behind his ear, and it's the same logo as was in the snow globe. So, a lot of mysteries coming up with this storyline here, and I'm really liking it. So Jillian informs Darius of this, of course. And Darius doesn't seem too... I don't know, he doesn't seem to care too much about it, honestly. And I don't know why. Because, and I love the line where she comes in and he says, oh, just saving the world, whatever, right? So he's got to focus on that more. He's not as focused on this Joe Riggs thing, as much as Jillian maybe is. So he's kind of putting Jillian to work here to try to get to the bottom of it while he focuses on this railgun and obviously claiming the White House for Mackenzie, right? With Bennett. So he has a lot of things going on. So then she asks about Liam, right? So this was interesting too. This kind of confirms that they're still together. I wasn't sure when she left if that's how they left it off, but it is. So she asks about Liam, and Darius says he has a plan to get in contact with them, right? So he's working on something here. And so Jillian then says, it's so hard when you love someone, they're out there, but you can't be with them. And then Darius says, I can only imagine. And yes, he can, right? Like, he actually can do more than imagine. He does feel that way with Grace, right? And I don't know if it's true that, like, you can't be with them for him and Grace. I'm not sure if that's true, but he definitely is thinking about Grace in this moment, and or at least I can see that in the scene as well, that he's thinking about Grace when he says this, I can only imagine. So, very interesting there, to go forward there with Darius and Grace. Obviously, in a relationship that needs to be explored, but not right now. They just have a lot of things going on, right? So anyways, so we see... Carter stops by at Grace's house again, just as last episode, as she's practicing for her testimony in the mirror. She's like, preparing to lie under oath, right? Because she has to, or else, she's probably going to prison, right? For killing Claire. So she has to lie about it. So then Carter tells her that he thinks Harris was the one who murdered Claire. So, I mean, it's, he's getting close, right? Like, he's really digging here, and now he's blaming Harris for murdering his sister. Pretty serious claim, right? So Grace tells him that he is looking for her, not Harris, right? So, and it actually, like, left off and there was a commercial here, so I wasn't sure if she was actually going to tell him what happened. I didn't think so, but then we come back from the commercial and she tells Carter the truth about what happened, but not that she killed her, just that Claire is missing, right? So she tells him that Harris, no, like, he did not kill her, she poisoned the president and did all these things, and now she's missing. And we had nothing to do with it. So, obviously, she's still lying to him to a point, but she's also being truthful with him and telling him what his sister did, right? Like, why she actually is still missing. So it doesn't look like Carter buys it, though. He doesn't think that his sister would do such a thing, would try to poison the president and work for Bennett and all this. So he doesn't believe it. And then he says, I love this line. He says, when I find out who killed my sister, God help them. And it kind of, instills fear into Grace a little bit. We see her face after he says that, and she's like, really, really shook by it. And of course, she's still thinking about Claire a lot. So that was, a pretty interesting scene there, and Carter definitely not giving up that easy. So then we get a little bit of a funny scene here in the episode. Darius flies this dragonfly that he's made, into Liam's room at Tan's, because it's the only way that he can communicate with Liam, right? Because they kind of have a type of like a kind of a North Korea kind of thing, right? Like, they have no communication with the outside world outside of Tan's, right? Like, they are focused on the project for the asteroid, and that's about it, right? Like, they have no access to the news, nothing, right? It's only what's inside Tan's, and so this is the only way that Darius can contact Liam. So Liam recognizes the dragonfly pretty soon, right? So he grabs the drive off of its back and listens to the video on his computer. So Darius tells Liam that he wants to upload he tells Liam that he wants him to upload a virus destroying Tess and also making sure Resist loses control of the 13 nukes, right? So he sends along a virus, right, with this within the dragonfly, I guess, to plug in to Tess's system to hopefully give it a virus and then hopefully make sure that Resist does not have access to these nukes. But suddenly, before he can finish the video, the girl comes in. Again, I forget her name, but she comes in the room, and she says, I have a solution to the sale problem, right? And so that's his big thing, is this sale. That's his idea throughout the episode here that he comes up with, right, to get rid of the asteroid, to knock it off its course, right? So she comes in and she says she figured out a solution, right? So they go down, they actually work out the math a little bit, and they develop something like a laser. They're adding a laser to the solution as well, right, to the idea, and they work out the equation, and it seems like it's gonna work, right? So it's pretty exciting, and Liam hugs her then, and he's like, oh, sorry, he gets a little excited, right? And then she says, I'm not, and she kisses him, and they actually kiss like 2 or 3 times before Liam actually does anything. He says, okay, wait, like I'm engaged, and I forgot about that actually, that Jillian and him are engaged. But anyway, so he says, I'm engaged, like, this is, this is, not happening or whatever. And then the girl says that she has a wife and a husband. I was like, what? Maybe I'm a little bit confused on that line. Probably I got it wrong or something, but like, what? She has a wife and a husband? Like, what? So is that like I don't know. I think it was just the way it was worded that was confusing. I think she was trying to say that she has a husband and that Liam has a wife, but the way it came out, it sounded like she was saying she had a wife and a husband. So anyways, again, I probably got that wrong. I just misunderstood. But anyways, so bottom line is, Jillian, like, what is going to happen if she finds out that they kiss? She's probably going to be pretty pissed at him, right? And get, all emotional like Jillian always does. So I don't know, what to see. I don't think that this is the end of their kind of relationship here with the girl and Liam. So hopefully, hopefully it doesn't get any farther than that, but I feel like it's going to, and I feel like it's going to jeopardize Liam and Jillian's relationship going forward. So, it's a little unfortunate, but that's kind of how things look like they are going to be playing out. So, then we see the Supreme Court hearing begins, but first, we get a little bit of a teaser, actually. So, the Supreme Court hearing begins, we get a little bit of a music overlay with it, and we see, like, kind of like a montage of things happening, right? So, we see Mackenzie testifying, we see Darius testifying, we see Harris testifying, right? And but we don't actually hear it, right? We just hear the music playing. So it was a very nice touch. I actually like that. One of my favorite parts of the episode this week. Just a really nice kind of compilation there, of a bunch of sequences in a row there, seeing it happen, right? So that's a nice touch. And then so then we get that, but then we don't actually see Grace's part until the next scene. But, in the meantime, then we get Liam. He enters the test room to launch this virus, right? So he's going to do it, and he's just about to do it. And the girl comes in and stops him and tells him that their team won the competition. So their idea has now won, and they have now control of basically all the scientists that are there, right? All the teams, they are now in control. They are leading them. So they have a great opportunity to stop the asteroid. So why would he ever, kind of screw things up here with resist? And so she actually persuades him out of doing it, which I felt, I don't know, like, I'm just kind of mad at Liam at this point for, letting her persuade you. Like, really, like, you were hell-bent on getting kind of revenge to resist. You didn't trust them, right? You really didn't want to help them at all, and now you let this girl persuade you to not launch the virus and possibly even save the world in doing so, making sure Resist didn't have access to those nukes. So it's just, really frustrating to see Liam kind of being persuaded, and he ends up not doing it. So, yeah, I don't know. It was just a little frustrating, but you can kind of see it, right? She's already trying to persuade him a little bit, right? And kind of getting to him. So, anyways, so that happens. But then we see finally the scene that we were all waiting for in this episode. Grace finally testifies. So, she says that Claire was the one who poisoned Mackenzie's medication, and apparently this seems to be a new claim. I'm not sure how this wasn't brought up within Harris, Mackenzie, or Darius's testimony, but anyways, so she says this, and everyone's like kind of surprised and awed, and then she lies under oath, telling them she doesn't know where Claire is, and says she is in the wind, when obviously she killed her, and her body is gone, right? So that's a big deal for her. She's able to do it. She's able to lie under oath to the Supreme Court about it, and being able to kind of cover her own tracks, at least for now. So then we see Harris comes into her office a little bit later and tells her that the voting is hung 4-4 right now, and the deciding vote is leading in their favor. So everything's looking up right now, right? So it looks like they're going to win the Supreme Court case because of her testimony about Bennett, and of course her lying, right, and saying that, you know, she doesn't know where Claire is. So Harris then says, it's all over, Grace. Soon we can finally put this behind us. But as you know, this line was just total foreshadowing. You knew something was going to happen after this line, right? You can never trust stuff like this when someone's saying it's all over, Grace, when it's not quite all over yet. So anyways, so that was, you know, kind of foreshadowing for later on. So then we see really interesting scene towards the end of the episode here. They're in the morgue, and this doctor that we saw before when Jillian went there is there, and the other guy rolls in a recently found washed up body, right? And so they peel it back, and it's none other than Claire Rayburn's body. So they have found Claire's body now, which throws a wrench into everything that's happened, and also places a lot of blame on Grace and Harris. They do not look good right now, especially Grace after she just lied under oath saying that she didn't know where she was when now her body is washed up. There's going to be a lot of questions. So that was a really, really nice scene there. Or not a nice scene to see, of course. It's, you know, a dead body. I don't mean like that, but it was just kind of a cool thing to throw in at the end of the episode here. And it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. I think it's going to be a big deal, right, finding her body. And also this says that Grace's dad didn't do a good enough job of hiding this body. Like, you know, like throwing it in an ocean and now it's washed up. Like, not a very good job of hiding this body. But anyways, so then, the very last sequence of the episode here, the woman who Bennett grabbed her family. So it looks like Bennett threatened this woman who and said, like, we have your family, remember, you know, you're going to do what we say, right? So she's on the Supreme Court, like she's one of the voters in this case. And so it looks like Bennett is not trusting what's happening, and he knows that this guy, this other justice, is probably going to swing the vote, and Mackenzie is going to win. So he puts this woman up to walking into the deliberation room and setting off a bomb. So this was really crazy. I actually didn't expect this at all. Really surprising. She walks in, she's like, I'm sorry, they have my family, and she sets off this bomb, and so the bomb actually sends the deciding justice, I think it was Justice Chang, to hospital in critical condition. So obviously, I mean, absolutely ruthless, getting this woman to set off this bomb, one of the Supreme Court justices, to walk in and set off this bomb, and basically throw away and sabotage the whole thing. Right after you just went to the Supreme Court and went, you know, through all this, now it's basically all thrown away. So Bennett spins the whole thing in his favor, blaming Mackenzie for the bombing. And Darius says this was his plan all along. He was going to do this Supreme Court thing, and then when he lost, he would do this, spin it off, you know, as it was our fault. And now we're right back, you know, where we were, right? And people are trusting him now more than us and everything. So, really, really crazy stuff here. Bennett, we just see that he's pretty smart. Like, he knows what's going on, right? So here it says the White House is a no-go zone from now on, and they need to draw battle lines and dispatch the National Guard. Like, things are getting serious now. Bennett just bombed the Supreme Court justice who is going to vote in our favor in the Supreme Court. That's enough of the law. We are now going to be fighting this, and it's going to be war, right? And Mackenzie then says, for the first time since Abraham Lincoln, this country is going to war with itself. Alright, so in terms of a rating for this episode, I'm going to give it a 4.0 out of 5. I think I may have hinted at it at the beginning. But yeah, so this episode, we didn't really get very far in it. And honestly, I mean, just in doing this recap, I kind of realized that. Like, the very end of this episode, you know, Mackenzie says, yeah, it's a nice line, but it's pretty much exactly what she said last episode. You know, right? So, like, we really did not get very far in this episode. We basically left off at the exact same point we left off last episode. So it didn't really seem like the Supreme Court had any purpose, right? It was just kind of a, you know, a time killer that turns out to be, you know, nothing really happens. So, anyways, it is what it is. Liam and Jillian's future, that's going to be a big topic to going forward in the season. Are they going to be able to stay together? Is Liam going to be able to kind of distance himself from this girl and not let her distract him like she is right now? I kind of doubt it, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens there. And then Liam, like, what are you doing? Right? That was probably the most frustrating part of the episode when he let her persuade him, and then decided that he's not going to do what Darius said, and he's actually going to keep going with resist and keep helping them instead of kind of destroying their chances. So that was frustrating, but obviously we see that Liam is already being affected by this girl at Tan. So. Within his team as well. And then that washed up body, Claire Rayburn's body, is found. That's just crazy too. So some really great stuff for next episode. But again, it looks like we kind of, or it seems like we kind of ended at the exact same point as we left off last episode. Like, honestly, I mean, if you take out the Carter stuff, about Claire, maybe not even the Carter stuff, like nothing really actually happens with the Carter investigation there. A couple things about Joe Riggs and the thing found. Claire's body is found. What else is there? And then Liam at Tan's. But everything else you could go without in this episode, and then we could just skip over to the next episode. You know what I mean? So just seemed like kind of a filler episode, to be honest. But it was definitely interesting. I mean, I didn't hate it. Like, I don't want I don't want to come off that way. I didn't hate it. I just felt like some things could have been done a little bit better instead of just kind of ending at the same point. So anyways, my favorite character for this one is going to be Grace Barrows, played by Jennifer Finnegan. She finally testified, and she was able to do it. She lied under oath to basically keep her safe, and Harris, of course, for killing Claire. Obviously, she doesn't want that to get out, but Claire's body is now washed up, so what does that mean, right? There's going to be a lot of questions, rising about it now. So, anyways, Jennifer Finnegan doing a great job, as always, in this episode. She's in a really tough spot right now. She's very emotional about pretty much everything. I mean, her and Darius's relationship is pretty much in shambles right now, if it existed at all before, and her testifying now, and she keeps seeing Claire over and over again. Pretty much every time she's alone somewhere, she sees Claire, and Claire's like talking to her. So, and we see she has like a nightmare too, before the night of the trial. So, just really a tough situation that Grace is in right now. Jennifer Finnegan doing a great job of kind of displaying that and playing that character. So, really great stuff here from Jennifer Finnegan and the rest of the cast, doing a really good job. So, anyways, guys, that'll just about do it for my review of Salvation Season 2, Episode 3. Thank you so much for the recent support on the channel. I really do appreciate it. Let's Talk Television, the recent episode, getting a lot of support from you guys. Likes, comments, views. Really do appreciate that. So go check that out, by the way. It'll be in the description if you haven't seen it already. But check that out. It's talking about Succession on HBO and why it might be HBO's next hit series. So check that one out. If you got some time to spare, check it out and for sure. But anyways, guys, again, we'll see you next week for Salvation. Still gonna be sticking with it week to week. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to do the whole season week to week, just because my summer schedule is jam-packed right now, but we'll have to see going forward. But anyways, next week definitely I'll be back with the review. So thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you next week for Salvation Season 2, Episode 4.